Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. On the panel with me this afternoon is Mr. Kent Steelan and Mr. Ron Merritt. Our assessor today is Mr. Nuwan Thudagala Munasinga, and our administrative person is Ms. Sally Caulfield. My name is Bill Moretsky. I'm also on the panel and will be chairing the hearing today. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. Makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 3, 4, and 8 on our docket today. Ms. Caulfield, please affirm the assessor's and the applicant's testimony.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Nuwan Thudagala Munasinga.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Madam Cates, could you please state your full name?
Sarah Cates.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Our first property on the docket today is item number 3, which is 271 Edison Avenue. This is an application for revision of the amount of the assessed value. Mr. Thudagala Munasinga, can you please begin your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. File number 242722, roll number 0400321000, 271 Edison Avenue, roll year 2025, reference date April 1st, 2023, assessed value to 2,909,000, classification 20 residential, liability taxable. This is 2-story building built in 1962, and it has 26 units and 24 outdoor parking. And page 2, you can see the location and aerial picture of the property. And page 3, request for income information, and subject property don't have any sale. Okay, and page 5, income value summary. There are 8 one-bedroom, 18 two-bedrooms. Altogether, we have 26 units, and average monthly rent per unit 957. And gross potential rent 298,618, and vacancy rate 2.6. effective gross income comes at 290,854. We have used 48.99 expense ratio, and then net operating income comes at 148,365. We have used 5.1 capitalization rate. Based on that, estimated market value comes at 2,909,000. Page 6, you can see rent comparable. Those rent comparable supported the model rent. Page 7, capitalization rate. Those are model generated capitalization rate. And below the chart, you can see high rise, low rise A, low rise B. For 20 percentile, all of them 4.75, 80 percentile, it's 5.45. And page 8, we have capitalization rate evidence. The following is sample of actual sales that took place during the reference period. The purpose of for showing these individual capitalization rate is to illustrate the accuracy of the model and substantiate the model-driven capitalization rate. They are not meant to be comparable specific to the subject property. So the property was built in 1962 with 26 unit. Model cap rate is 5.1. I believe 241 Young Street and 32 Eden Avenue supported the model cap rate. And page 9, municipal assessment at exert. Page 10, you can see a picture of the building, and page 11, also the picture of the building, page 12 too. And page 13 to 16, you can see income and expense information. And page 17, you can see the stabilization table. In here, like they have higher vacancy and higher maintenance and repair. I believe maybe they are doing some renovation. Because of that, I use market vacancy, and I use 1,500 per unit maintenance and repair. Based on that information, the estimated property value supported the model assessment value of 2,909,000. So I believe this is a fair value for the property. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cates, any questions on the assessor's presentation?
Yeah, a couple questions. Thank you. So for your workup on page 17, you use the actual rents, but then not the actual vacancy or repair and maintenance. But would you agree that higher rents typically leads to higher vacancy, and also that higher repair and maintenance typically leads to getting higher rents?
Because I use this is the market, like we have, this is a market rate. So therefore I use the market vacancy, and 1,500 per unit means that's normally in my experience, it's like the maintenance and repair runs 1,700 to 1,800. For this age of building, I believe 1,500 would be fair for the maintenance and repair. So that's the reason I use that number.
Okay, but in terms of if you're using lower vacancy, would it not also be fair to use lower rents? Because if their rents were lower, then they would have a market vacancy. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's right.
And in terms of the repair and maintenance, would it not be more accurate to look at the actuals? Because like if they're doing closer to 2,000 a unit, then 1,500 is not really capturing all that they're doing to the property. Would that be fair?
The problem, if they are doing the renovation, that's their, I mean, because of the renovation, they have the vacancy. So, like, because of that, I think 1,500 would be fair amount.
Okay. And then final question, just in regard to the cap rate of 5.1.
Mhm.
Given that the property is built in the 60s, does 5.1% not seem a little low for this property?
Like in first glance, you can see that the problem, like when we are getting the income and expense information, normally they reported to us like higher income and lower, sorry, higher expenses and lower income. So like when we are calculating based on that information, the cap rate going to be lower. So maybe that's the reason. But when we are like compare with the market value per unit, it's in a range.
Okay. Thank you. That would conclude my questions.
Give me a moment here. Mr. Merritt, any questions for the assessor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Assessor, I'm wondering also about the low cap rate with the building that was built in 1962.
Mhm.
Do you feel as if that is a fair cap rate for that age of a building?
I believe so because if you are going to page 8, like we have some cap rate evidence. So those cap rate evidence supported the that 5.1 cap rate.
Yeah.
So we
Go ahead.
yeah, like for calculating those, what we done, we use like 3-year stabilization, income and expense stabilization, and then use we like got that cap rate based on that. So because of that, I believe this 5.1 cap rate is fair.
All right. I thank you very kindly. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Seelan, any questions?
Yes, have you inspected this location?
No,
Has the-
I didn't inspect.
Has anyone inspected this location recently?
As I remember, I checked, no one inspect recently.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Page 11. Looking at the interior pictures. Now, would this be typical of all of the suites?
Actually, I took from the online ads, so I'm not sure about that.
Okay, but what can you say to the authenticity of these photos then in terms of this particular property? Do these reflect the suites in this apartment block?
Yes, that's that's the information from their website.
And it appears to be a recent renovation. Can you speak to anything of when it was done?
No, because like we can see they have like higher maintenance and repair. Maybe they have done some like interior renovation. That means like they can do without permit for like those kind of renovation. So maybe they have done some renovations. So I checked permits, but I can't find any permits for the any like structural renovation or any other things. For
Okay, but it's pretty safe to see that it has been renovated inside.
yeah,
That
it
be
appears.
accurate?
Yeah, that's right. It appears to be
And
renovated.
recently,
Yeah.
decade, let's say. Okay, so why do you have an effective year built of 1962 then, same as the actual year built?
Because until right now we couldn't go and inspect the property, so I think that's the reason. I'm going to make a note to to do the inspection for next time.
Okay, so your cap rate that you used did not reflect these renovations then? It was just based on the block alone?
Yes, because we didn't change the effective wage, so this is based on the actual year build. So the cap rate, 1962.
And your contention is that all these renovations are going to be completed now, and it's just going to go back to being on the market as is, right? There's going to be no more renovations soon. That's
I
why
can.
you went with the market vacancy and the maintenance repair. You put it at 1,500 because you think these renovations are done. This isn't an ongoing thing that's always happening to this block.
I believe they have done renovations. That's what I believe. So yeah, that's why I use 2.6 market vacancy. Sorry.
And you believe that the renovations are what caused the higher vacancy?
Yes, that's what I thought and thinking.
Oh, I don't have any further questions. Ms. Cates, can you begin your presentation, please?
Yes, thank you. So if you turn to page 2, we have a summary of some of the facts of the property, along with our requested assessment of $2,521,000. On page 6, we have some property site maps, and then an exterior photo on page 7. Property description on page 8. So the subject is on the north side of Edison, between Henderson and Roach Street in the Rossmere A area. It is a 2.5-story building built in the early 60s with 26 units and 24 parking stalls. If you turn to page 13, we have the overview of our income approach. So we are applying potential market gross rents of $305,846 or $980 per unit per month based on the actual stabilized income of the property. We note that the property has had above market vacancy during the reference period, 9% in 2020, 9.5% in 21, and 11.5% in 22. And the high vacancy goes back even farther than that. I've included financial statements in the brief back to 2017. And you could see that aside from 2019, which just 1 year in that whole span, they have above market vacancy in every year. So based on that analysis, we have applied a higher vacancy rate of 7.5% to reflect the fact that this property carries above market vacancy fairly consistently over the years. For the expenses, we have stabilized 3 years of operating expenses and 5 years of repair and maintenance, and we have an expense allowance of $154,167 or 51.5% of effective gross income. We have our cap rate for the property on page 14. So we are applying a cap rate of 5.75% based on our cap rate study. It is a walk-up apartment. We would place the condition on a scale of average to good. There's going to be some units, such as the marketing photos, that are fixed up to a higher degree, and then there'll be some units that are more along the lines of average. So we haven't applied any other adjustments to the cap rate. On page 16, we have our income and expense breakdown. So income is stabilized based on the most recent year. Expenses, expenses that are known to fluctuate, we would take an average, and then all other expenses, we would use the most recent year, and that's shown in the remarks column. So if you turn to page 17, we have a breakdown of repair and maintenance. So properties that spend more in terms of repair and maintenance into common areas, the suites, it's going to be a more desirable property. They'll be able to attain higher rents. So it's a bit challenging to try to separate what the actual rents with the actual repair and maintenance stabilized that they're spending. They're pretty consistently spending above 1,500 a unit. They're spending closer to 2,000 a unit. And based on our review of many apartments in the city, we would say 1,500 would be more of an, let's say, an average apartment. But for properties that are quite well maintained, it's not uncommon to see repair and maintenance in the range of 1,800 to 2,200. So we've stabilized repair and maintenance line by line. I've taken out items that appear to be outliers. So the items that are highlighted in red are not included in that stabilized average, and we get 1962 per unit. So we have a net operating income of $144,958. In terms of the cap rates, we have our standalone cap rate study, which I've submitted, which shows how we arrive at our base cap rates. And one thing we look at is the market information, and what the brokers are saying for low-rise B properties is somewhere in the range of 5 to 5.75, 5 to 6. CBRE is a bit more optimistic, but when we're looking at these type of 60s, 70s apartments, it makes sense for them to be in that mid-range, not on the very low end of the range of 5.1%. That would be more something that we'd see for a much newer property. Appendix starts on page 19, and I've just included the marketing photos. So this would be like the best unit at the property. And then I've also included the financials for your review. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Thudagala Munasinghe, do you have any questions on the applicant's presentation?
Yes. Did you inspect the property, Sarah?
Did not inspect the property.
One question. So you have 7.5 vacancy rate, right? Don't you think that vacancy rate affected by because of the renovation? Like that's like that means that much higher because of the renovation?
So sometimes when you do see elevated vacancy at a property, it could be due to renovations, not to market factors. But one way to kind of gauge that could be to look at the repair and maintenance. And if it jumps significantly one year and then the vacancy jumps in that year, then that would make sense. But like I say, if the vacancy is pretty consistently high from 2017, then I believe that would be from market factors as well. I don't think that would be purely a renovation thing, because that is quite a duration of time from 2017 to 2022.
Okay, but like page 10 of your Altus cap rate study, I can't see any like that much higher average vacancy there. So that's why I asked that question. Yeah, that's all.
No, I can appreciate the question. These would be on page 10 of the cap rate study. These would be CMHC market vacancy rates. And typically when we're doing our multi-res analysis, we would apply a market vacancy. But if the property has a chronic above market vacancy, then that would need to be reflected either in the vacancy rate or the cap rate. So I've chosen to apply a bit of a higher vacancy rate here.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Mr. Seelan, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, so were there renovations done here to the building recently?
In terms of recently, I can't comment, but they would fix up units as people move out so that they can modernize them. In terms of an exact timeline, I'm not sure, but they would kind of steadily do that. That would be pretty common with kind of builds of this age.
If you turn to page 7 and we look at the picture here, I see there's a difference in the brick texture. Is that just a pattern in this building with respect to the dark and light colored brick?
That's a good question. I'm not sure on that. It looks like it could be a pattern because on the front of the building, they also have that darker brick kind of at the bottom. But I wouldn't be able to say with certainty.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, just getting back to your analysis. Sorry, I'm just trying to find a page number here. Oh yeah, it's your repair and maintenance. So you're contending that this repair and maintenance is something that's ongoing with this building, correct?
Correct.
Just a fact of life owning this building, that you have to spend this money to upkeep it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, that would essentially be that would be the contention, I guess, that you would have to consistently spend in this range to upkeep it and get those rents.
Is that what you're discovering on other apartment buildings of this age around the city? Same thing?
It does vary a bit by by different owners, but in terms of this owner and the other apartments of this age, yeah, they would consistently be spending in the range of 1,800 to 2,100 per unit pretty consistently.
Ron, did I miss you?
Yeah, just that's okay. I can hop in anytime.
Okay. Just let me finish my question and then hand it over to you, sir.
That's okay.
Now, the renovations, they look like they're improving this block as it goes along. Would you agree with that?
Would agree with that.
So then that would mean that you can charge more rent then, correct?
Yes, if you do improvements to the units, then you could get above guideline RTB increases to increase the rents.
Okay, but then you use those latest amount for your income, correct? 2022, your analysis?
Yes, that's correct.
So on page 7 there, just one quick question there. Those look like new windows on the elevation. Is that correct? Do I see that properly?
Yes, it would appear so.
All right, I have no further questions. Sorry, Ron. Can you please?
That's okay.
Go ahead.
I do have just a couple questions, Mr. Chairman. So, Ms. Cates, your NOI's pretty close to the same. Your percentage of expenses are relatively close to what the city of Winnipeg is doing. Just tell me why you're using the cap rate that you're using, which is 5.75.
Yeah, you're correct. It is mostly a cap rate dispute here. So in terms of the cap rate, one of the key factors that we would look at would be the age of a property, because the age is also determining the style in which it's built too. Like when we look at newer apartments that are around, they're full of amenities. They're kind of a different asset when we look at them. So in our view, a cap rate that's closer to 5% would be more indicative of kind of the latest, greatest apartments when we're looking at kind of an average property from, or average to good property from the 60s to 70s. There's no amenities, and being that it's an older property, it would have a shorter life. We feel that it should be somewhere in the midpoint to the higher end of the cap rate range. So if we're seeing the market saying kind of 5 to 5.75, 5 to 6, we think the cap rate should be in that range. So that is why we applied a higher cap rate than the city.
All right. I thank you. I think that's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman. So thank you, Ms. Cates. Thank you.
Mr. Thudagala Munasinghe, do you have anything in summation?
No, thank you.
Ms. Cates, do you have anything in summation?
Good as well. Thank you.
Okay, that will conclude this property, 271 Edison then. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, 359 as Edison Avenue. Mr. Thudagala Munasinghe, can you please begin your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. File number 24-2435, roll number 0400332500, 359 Edison Avenue, roll year 2025, reference date April 1st, 2023, assessed value 2,476,000, classification 20 residential, liability taxable. This is two-story building built in 1963. It has 23 units with 23 outdoor parking stalls. And page 2, location and aerial picture of the building. Page 3, request for income information and subject property sale history. No sales history for the subject property. And page 4, income value summary. This building has 3 bachelor unit, 8 one bedroom, 12 two bedrooms, altogether 23 units. And average monthly rent per unit 923, and gross potential rent 254,941, vacancy rate 2.6, effective gross income 248,313, the expense ratio 49.14, and net operating income comes at 126,292. We have used 5.1 capitalization rate. The estimated market value comes at 2,476,000. And page 5, you can see rent comparables. So model rent is in line with the model rent, market rent. And page 6, capitalization rate. You can see capitalization. This is the model generated capitalization rate, and multifamily you can see on the bottom of the chart. And page 7, capitalization rate evidence. So I believe the building was built in 1963 with 23 units. The model cap rate is 5.1. I believe 32 Erden Avenue and 241 Young Street supported our cap rate. So, page 8, the municipal assessment excerpt. Page 9, you can see the interior and exterior picture of the building. Page 10, also the pictures. Page 11 up to page 13, and page 14 to 20, income and expense information. And page 21, the stabilization table. Based on the stabilization estimated property value, that value supported assessment value of 246,000. So I believe the 246,000, sorry, 2,476,000 is fair value for the property. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cates, any questions on the assessor's presentation?
Yes, thank you. So in terms of your photos that you provided on page 9, would you agree that aside from the paint, which looks more recent, that the finishes of the unit would look a bit outdated?
Yeah, that's right. I can agree.
Okay, thank you. That would conclude my questions.
Okay, Mr. Seelan, any questions?
Have you inspected this property?
No, I didn't. And I checked our note. We didn't inspect the property recently.
And all your markup is model driven?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Thanks very much. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Merrick, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Assessor, you're using the same cap rate of the previous property that we just did, and you're using the 5.10, and like you say, it's probably model driven, but most of it is based on the age, is it not?
I believe age, location, and size of the property. That means number of the suites.
So there's no overrides on this particular subject property, is there?
As I remember, I checked no rights on the cap rate or any other things.
Okay, I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank you, Mr. Assessor. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the same cap rate as the previous property,
Yes.
and clear that the inside is not as nice as that other property, but still have the same cap rate. So, any comments to that effect?
Because the previous property, we didn't change the effective age based on the renovation. So we treat as the average property. This is in an average property, so we treat the both same. That's the reason for that.
I have no further questions. Ms. Cates, you can begin your presentation.
Thank you. So if you turn to page 2, we have our requested assessment of $2,276,000. On page 6, we have our property maps, and then an exterior photo on page 7. Property description on page 8. So the subject is on the north side of Edison between Rothesay and Roach Street in the Rossmere A area. It is a 2.5-story building from the early 60s, 23 units, and 20 surface parking stalls. If you turn to page 13, we have the overview of our income approach. So we are applying potential market gross rents of $254,073 or $921 per unit per month based on the actual stabilized income of the property. We are applying a market vacancy of 2.6% and an expense allowance based on our stabilization of $127,818 or 49.4% of effective gross income. Cap rate on page 14. We are applying a 5.75% cap rate to the property, and we've made no adjustments. We're considering the property to be in average or average to good condition, and it is also a walk-up apartment. On page 16, we have our valuation. So we are using a net operating income of $130,891. So it's solely a cap rate issue with a 5.75% cap rate gives an indicated value of $2,276,000. Repair and maintenance on page 17. The repair and maintenance is quite low, but that is what they are spending. So that's what we've used. But that would also explain the finishes of the units in terms of page 20. We've also provided the marketing photos that were available, and many elements look fairly dated or original, such as flooring. Appliances look dated. And then I've also included the financials that we've reviewed. And that would conclude my presentation on this property. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Studagala Munusinga, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No question this time. Thank you.
Mr. Merritt, any questions?
I have none, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Seelan, any questions?
Yes, have you inspected this property?
I've not inspected this property.
Well, thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Ms. Cates, your NOI is actually higher than what the city has. You just did that to be consistent. Would that be correct assumption?
Yes, it is
Your
higher.
methodology? Yeah.
So when we're doing the analysis, we always stabilize based on the actuals for the NOI. So if it's higher, then that's what we use.
I appreciate that. I do not have any other questions in. Anything in summation, Mr. Thudagala Munusinga?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Cates, anything in summation?
I'm good as well. Thank you.
That will conclude this item number 4, 359 Edison Avenue. Moment, please. Move all the way forward to item number 8, 716 Kildare. Did you get that withdrawal form in, Ms. Cates?
I didn't
For the
get it
class and
in.
liability?
I didn't get it in yet, but I will get it in very shortly. Unless we could take a brief recess and then I can fill it out.
Sure, let's do that. Let's come back at 1:55, please. Okay, we are back in order. We are on item number 8, 716 Kildare. This is an application for revision of the amount of the assessed value. The application for class and liability has been withdrawn by the client, or by the applicant, sorry. Mr. Munusinga, you can begin. Thudagala Munusinga, you can begin your presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. File number 24-3441, roll number 09010474170, 716 Kildare Avenue East, roll year 2025, reference date April 1st, 2023, assessed value 4,640,000, classification 40, institutional, liability, part taxable, part school tax exempt. This property has 2 buildings, and built in 1986 with 60 units, 20 are outdoor parking. And page 2, location and aerial picture of the property. And page 3, request for income information and no sales history for the subject property. And page 4, income value summary. I have mentioned here, this is a social housing. We treated social housing normally as a below average property to account the challenges in the operation. This property has 55 one-bedroom, 5 two-bedroom, altogether 60 units. The average monthly per unit rent per unit 791. Gross potential income for 40S 569,678. Vacancy rate 2.6. Effective gross income 554,866. Expense ratio 50.36, and net operating income comes at 275,435. We have used 6.05 capitalization rate. Based on that capitalization rate, estimated market value comes at 4,553,000. The market value for suite 75,883. And you can see the rent comparable in page 5. On page 5, the model rent is lower end of the rent comparable. And page 6, I have at the land comparables. That's land comparable support our land value for the 42 portion, 40T portion. And page 7, CMHC market rent comparison. In page next page, page 8, you can see the their actual market rent is 28%. Sorry, 28% for one, lower than the market rent. So page 9, capitalization rate. This is model driven capitalization rate. I'm not going to read the whole thing. And page 10, capitalization rate evidence. Page 11, municipal assessment exert. And page 12, exterior picture of the building. And page 13 and 13, CMHC rent charts. So for I think assess value of 4,640,000 is fair value for the property. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Ms. Kate?
In terms of the summary that you have on page 4, had you considered any adjustments to the expenses based on the financials?
You mean page 4, right?
Yeah, sorry, page 4.
We didn't do any adjustment. This is model driven.
Had you considered any adjustment for the expenses?
I don't, because our cap rate is in a higher side, 6.5. That means that capture, if the I mean that capture the challenges or the operation challenges for the property. I believe so. That's
Okay, thank you. That would conclude my questions.
Mr. Merritt, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Assessor, this is independent living.
I'm not. I think this is. I'm not sure exactly. This is an independent living. I believe maybe Kate know about that.
Okay. I'll reserve
Yeah.
that. I'll ask her then. These units are quite small. They range in 576 square feet to 675 square feet. Is that correct?
Could you please repeat the question? I missed.
Okay.
Yeah.
The size of the individual units, they range from 576 to 675 square feet.
Yeah, that's right.
Have you had a chance to go through this building at all?
No, I didn't inspect the property.
Okay. The expense ratio of 50.4%, is that pretty standard in the industry?
No, I believe like when I'm seeing this is like higher side of the expense ratio. We have like near to 60%, but it's depend on the age. Like based on the age, I think this is
1986.
yeah, 86,
Yeah.
right? It's fairly new, not new, but fairly new.
Yeah, but
So
pretty new.
yeah, so because of that, I think for 1986 building, this is the higher end of the expense ratio.
I note that there's like 60 units in there, but there's only 25 stalls, like parking stalls. So is that a deterrent in regards to, people that go there, or I guess they don't have cars, or is that the standard?
Mm, I'm not sure about that. I can't answer that.
Okay. Okay. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Well, in regards to the expenses that you had discussed earlier with Ms. Cates, you stated that you adjusted the cap rate to compensate for the extra expenses, correct?
Actually, I didn't adjust, but I said this is like a higher cap rate. Like this is over 80 and 8 percentile. So 80th percentile. So I believe if they, I mean, if Ms. Kate think we have to adjust the expense ratio, it's already adjusted with the cap rate. That's what I try to explain to her.
Okay, I guess my question is, would that be if you went to what would be the normal cap rate that you used throughout the dockets today, which should be 5.1? Would that have compensated for these extra expenses?
Yeah, based on our chart, I think it's near to the 5.1, around 5.1. It could be 5.1.
So the answer is yes, then? You did
Yes,
compensate
yeah.
for the expenses?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no further questions. Ms. Cates, can begin your presentation?
I have a
Thank
question, Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
sorry, Mr. Sealer.
Yes, right. So the cost of the property, you have 87,000. What is the 87,000 for?
That's the excess land of the property. So 2 acre, that's exempt from the legislation. So after 2 acre, they have to pay taxes on that. So that's the 40 T means that's excess of the land.
Okay, specifically, it's just the land. Okay.
Yes, just the land, just only land.
Okay. And this is specific because the property is bigger.
The land is bigger, normally bigger than, I think land is bigger than the compare with the normal apartment. So, and also legislation gives a 2 acre exemption. So that's another reason.
Is this like for parking, or is this a park, or?
I'm not sure about that.
Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, once again, I apologize for skipping somebody. One of these days I'll get that right. Okay, Ms. Cates, can you begin your presentation?
So if you turn to page 2, we have our requested assessment. So we're not disputing the 40T component at $87,000, but we would request a revision to the 40S component to $3,629,000 for a total of $3,716,000. On page 6, we have our property maps. And then an exterior photo on page 7, and then a pictometry view of the site underneath that. Property description on page 8. So the subject is on the south side of Kildare Avenue East between Woodlake and Redonda in the Kildare-Redonda area. The property is known as East Park Lodge, and the property consists of a 6-story building built in the mid-80s. It was built as an independent living facility for seniors. The residential building was built to accommodate spouses of the adjacent personal care homes. So you could see on the pictometry view on page 7 that it's kind of an institutional look to the property. So the property has 60 units, mostly 1-bedrooms. The sizes are approximately 575 square feet for a 1-bedroom, 675 for a 2-bedroom. And we have 25 parking stalls noted. On page 13, we have the overview of our income approach. So given the nature of the property, the tenants have access to atypical services and programs. So in terms of the rents that are in place, they may not be entirely reflective of purely a unit rent. So we're not disputing the assessor's rents in place at $569,678 or $791 per unit per month. We've applied a market vacancy of 2.6%, and we have taken a look at the expenses of the property and stabilized them to $346,215 or 62.4% of effective gross income. On page 14, we have the overview of our cap rate for the property. So based on the age, our base cap rate would be 5.5%, and we've applied a 0.25 adjustment to 5.75%. When you have properties that are purpose-built for a different use other than purely market housing, they're not constructed with the same factors that a standard apartment would be. So the property's design regarding both the institutional appearance, but also the layout. These properties tend to have excess of common area that would be considered undesirable to the market if you have kind of an excess of common area and not units that can be producing rents. And for further support for cap rates, I've also included a market report on seniors housing that supports the idea of higher cap rates for these type of properties. So if you turn to page 15, we have our income and expense breakdown. So in terms of the expenses, it is common to see a higher expense ratio when the rents are lower, because the expenses are just taking up more of a proportion of the rents. And we do see this in the private market too, when you're looking at like lower rent apartments. So we have a net operating income of $208,651 with a 5.75% cap rate, gives an indicated value of $3,629,000 rounded. Repair and maintenance on page 17. And then in the appendix, I've just included, starting on page 20, a bit from the website about the property, as well as the seniors housing cap rates. Now, these cap rates would be higher than what we apply because these cap rates are based on assuming some sort of business value with the operation. So I'm not suggesting that our cap rate today should be, 6.5 or 7%, but just kind of include as further support that the market would tend to add more of an adjustment to these properties. And then I've just included the financials that we've reviewed. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Hey, any questions, Mr. Thudagala Munasinga?
No question this time. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Seelan?
Have you inspected this property?
Not inspected this property for the purpose of the analysis. Since we haven't had the opportunity to inspect, I'm just assuming that that condition's not an issue, that it's somewhere in the average to good spectrum.
Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Any questions, Mr. Merritt?
I have none, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
And I have no questions. That will conclude item number 8, 716 Kildare. And we have heard all of the items scheduled this afternoon, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you very much, Ms. Cates and Mr. Durigala Munusinga.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.